Fastline Auctions, the ultimate destination for online farm equipment auctions. Looking to list equipment? Fastline Auctions knows farmers, and farmers have trusted Fastline for their equipment needs for over 45 years. With unmatched digital reach and direct-to-farmer catalogs, they can find the right buyer for your equipment. Not to mention, they have the industry's lowest commission rates. If you're looking for equipment to buy, you can bid with confidence. No buyer premiums, no reserves, just integrity. Fastline Auctions, your trusted platform for hassle-free, cost-effective farm equipment auctions. Visit fastline.com for more information. That's fastline.com.
Stories behind the ag brands we love and the ag brands we love to hate. What color is your tractor? With Chrissy Wozniak.
Hi, and welcome to What Color is Your Tractor? I'm Chrissy Wozniak. On this show, I'm usually talking to big iron manufacturers about their equipment, but today I'm going to get a farmer's perspective on tractor color and why agriculture branding has been so historically important to the industry. We're going to delve into modern branding and how social media has made its impact on farming as well. Our guest is a popular YouTube influencer known on YouTube as MikeP7810. He has over 19,000 subscribers and has released 454 videos to date. From Whitney Point in upstate New York, I'd like to welcome Michael Price. Welcome, Mike, and thank you so much for joining me today.
Hi, and thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
So first of all, tell me about because I'm curious, your YouTube name. I'm assuming the 7810 is referring to a favorite green tractor.
Yep. We have older tractors, and something about the 7010 series of the John Deeres, it just really struck me. Something about them. They sound great. They look great. The sticker on them, I really, really like it. And the 7810 is the biggest one out of that series. So that's what kind of drew me to the 7810. And there's so much you can do with that tractor. With the 540 and the 1000 PTO, you could do anything. You could mow hay, Ted hay, even rake hay, and bale hay with the same exact tractor. And there's just so much you could do with that tractor. It's so versatile. It's probably, in my opinion, one of the best tractors John Deere ever made.
That's awesome. I love starting out with a good. I'm
hoping one day I can actually have one of my own. We don't have one yet.
Oh, you don't? Yeah.
No, we don't. But that's the goal.
Yeah, that's awesome. So can you share a bit about your background, your farm, and your lifetime of experience with tractors?
Sure. So my parents moved to this farm in 1976. They were both from New Jersey originally. My father, both of them grew up on dairy farms. My father's dad, my grandfather, died of a heart attack. My dad was only 13 years old when his father passed away. So they had to sell the family farm. He worked on a bunch of farms all through high school and everything. He went to college and got a business degree. And when he came back, he just loved agriculture, wanted to stay into agriculture. So he met my mom, and my mom had a cousin that lived up here in upstate New York, and there was a farm that just came available. So they came up and took a look at it, and they really liked it. They, at 25 and 21, they packed up and headed up here and rented the farm for a few years. And in 1979, they ended up buying it. And then the 80s is when all the kids came. So I was born in 1982, and I've lived here my whole life. Grew up on this farm.
Oh, that's awesome. And what about the story of your John Deere 520?
The 520. So my father, when he grew up in New Jersey, my grandfather, when he was alive, had all Alice Chalmers. That's what he had. And my dad's uncle had John Deere's. And back then, no social media, not much for television. My dad didn't know what a John Deere was. And they went over to his uncle's farm, and he had just bought this new John Deere 520. So it was the first John Deere my dad ever saw. And a couple of years later, he got to drive it. So it was not only the first one he ever saw, it was the first one he ever got to drive. And he said, before that tractor, he didn't know what a John Deere was. And his uncle ended up moving to Western Pennsylvania. And a few years ago, my dad's uncle had passed, and he was out at the funeral, and he was talking to his cousins, and he asked them, did Uncle Eddie still have that 520? And they said, oh yeah, it's still at the barn. And they said, well, what are you going to do with it? And none of them wanted it. So my dad bought it, and we took it to a neighbor, and he got it running and painted it,
Wow.
restored it, and it's been great. Now we take it down to the fair and do parade. Me and my son do parades, and we do our antique tractor pull and everything. So the 520's been just a great tractor. I actually had a guy ask me the other day how much we wanted for it, and I just said, never, it will never be for sale.
Yeah. Oh, that's so cool. I love to hear that. And we're going to shift into talking about the industry kind of as a whole and some trends in the industry. Ag tech is obviously so important today to today's farm equipment.
Mhm.
How have you leveraged new technology over the last 20 years? Like we both know things have changed so much since, the late 90s even.
Mhm.
And so what's that journey been like, adopting new ways of doing things as you go?
It's been interesting. It's been, I wouldn't say a struggle, but it's been for my father's really good at, he'll listen, and he just doesn't dismiss it. And he's not one of those, well, this is the way we've always done it, so this is the way we're going to keep doing it. He's actually pretty open to it. There's certain things he really does need convincing. I mean, it took forever. All his tractors were all 2-wheel drive tractors, and it took forever for me to get a 4-wheel drive tractor on the farm. So
Wow.
and now that we finally have one, he did say, yeah, that was a good buy. I'm glad we got that tractor. But our newest tractor is a 92. So as far as technology wise, we really don't get into a lot. I mean, I've been going through the tractors and replacing all the lights with LED lights, but there's certain benefits he sees. He'd really like to start using cameras more, putting a camera on the back of the tractor when he's planting corn, putting up a monitor, maybe some extra cameras on the combine to help out with visual stuff. And I'm still trying to get him to use the yield monitor in the combine some more. It came with the combine we just got, and he still hasn't figured it out, and it beeps at him, and then he just shuts it off. So slowly but surely, but we are getting there. We're a little behind the 8 ball when it comes to it, but there's just so many things out there that can make your everyday life so much more easier. Up till this past winter, we still fed our cows with a cart and a fork, and we forked out everything. Wow. And something as simple as a motorized feed cart has saved us so much time. And I mean, there's so much work to be done. So taking a job that was maybe an hour and a half and turning it into a 20-minute job has been huge.
Right. Yeah. And this is what a lot of what I hear. I moderated a panel last year at the FIRA conference in California. And it was so interesting because it was really about the intersection of cool things and profitability. And there's so many cool things. But if it doesn't come back and put dollars in your pocket and make sense, you're not going to, you're going to talk about the groundbreaking feature, but it doesn't matter how groundbreaking it is if it's not going to actually save you money on your particular farm, right?
Absolutely.
So I think that's a really good point, and I think it's a lot of points that manufacturers need to think about too. That it's not just how can we make this better, how can we make this cooler, but how can we fit a tractor to a particular farm, right? So how do you decide what's worth it and what's not?
It's first thing you got to do is you got to do your research. For instance, we had a neighbor that just put in milking robots. So if we were ever thinking about going to robotic milking, if we're getting to the point where it's, something like that's come a long way, I would probably do a lot of visiting, reaching out to other people. In our own instance, we're looking at round balers right now. So I've reached out to different people on social media that had all the different brands of round balers and say, okay, we're gonna be demoing this one. Tell me what you like about it. Tell me what you don't like about it. What's the big holdup? Because everyone can be a little brand specific, and and I'm so guilty of having brand loyalty too. So, and for us, it's such a big purchase being a small dairy farm. So we want to make sure we make the right purchase. So, just reaching out, doing your research, pushing the pencil and seeing, like you said, is it going to be putting dollars back into your pocket, or are you just going to be putting them out in the manufacturer's pocket?
Yeah, that's it. And just looking at a really cool thing, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And smart technology on equipment is becoming increasingly more efficient. And with fewer farms feeding more people, today's farming has to be as efficient as possible. Do you think current manufacturers are on the right track to help provide these solutions? Or do you think they're, maybe forcing it too much? Or do you think they're at the right pace?
I think they're on the right pace. I mean, you always have to keep evolving and keep going forward, and there's always going to be the next best thing. I mean, they can come out with the coolest looking product ever, but they have to sell that product. And if it's not going to be, you can't force somebody to buy your product. So if you come out with the coolest thing, but it's just not economically feasible for the farmers, they're just not going to buy it. So that's one thing you have to look at. You have to manufacture it, but make it affordable and make it, worth their time, worth their while.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. It's a tight line that they have to,
Absolutely.
Have to walk there. And then what about supply chain breakdowns over the last 2 years? How have they affected your farm?
We've been very fortunate. The dealership we go with, Casanova Equipment in Cortland, New York, it hasn't had a problem with parts. They've been getting the parts in very, very regularly. That's one of the reasons why I've looked at a Kuhn baler. There's a big supply warehouse up in New York. So parts have been huge. There's certain brands we might want to stay away from, just hearing that maybe the parts have been a little hard to get. So that's one of the things I've been asking people, how have the parts been? So we've actually been pretty fortunate, not having major breakdowns, and the ones we have had have been we've been able to get the parts pretty regular, pretty quick.
Yeah, that's awesome to hear. I think there's been a bit of a shift lately to North American made equipment, just for that reason in the last couple of years. And it's been interesting to hear a lot of manufacturers saying that they're sourcing parts in the US now because it's a little bit more difficult, or has been. I'm not sure. It'll be interesting to see what happens over the next couple of years as things get better, or whether this will be a permanent change or not.
And I think that's helping. There's a lot of companies that are making OEM parts that people are reaching out for. So if you can't supply with parts, there's a lot of other places they can reach out to, and the internet's helped out. You can go to Google and there's going to be a whole list of parts coming up. So there's a bunch of stuff you can look at. If you want to go the OEM route, there seems to be a lot of different places to reach out to and see what they have in stock and how quickly you can get it in.
Yeah. And what do you want manufacturers to know about producers?
I mean, our operation, we're on the smaller scale operation. We're trying to build it, trying to get bigger, but this farm hasn't been passed down generations. My dad has built it up from scratch. So we might have to sacrifice, looking at a newer piece of equipment, we might have to sacrifice some bells and whistles just to get the equipment. But there's so many different levels and, where people are. I know there's I was just talking about this the other night when, keep talking about round balers because it's so fresh in my mind, but there's a farm that bought one, was able to buy one cash, and now they trade it in every 2 years because the cost of, the maintenance cost on it, as long as they just keep it up these 2 years, they keep trading it in. And they said the cost, I forgot what it was like 50 cents a bale. They figured it out. It's costing them to run it by the time they just keep trading in for a new one and just keep maintenance costs down. So that's on a totally different spectrum where we're at, where we obviously can't make that jump into that purchase from the get-go. So we're gonna, there's anywhere in between. And I think manufacturers done a pretty good job coming out with different packages, coming out with different things to work with people in all different types of financial situations and what they can, what suits them best.
Yeah, that's good. And looking ahead, what excites you the most about the future of agriculture?
I guess what excites me the most is what we don't know. What's the next best thing? I remember being a little kid and going to the New York State Farm Show and seeing a milking robot for the first time, and it blew my mind. This is amazing. And they have come such a long way. So I guess the next thing is what's the next thing? And that's what I really love about those kind of shows. Is seeing all the new products, whether it's something small like, hey, this is a new cow stall. There seems to be a lot of those poly stalls that flex. I see a lot of companies are selling them now, or it could be something as big as like a robotic something. It's just so cool to see what the latest thing is, whether we could implemented on our farm, or whether it's just, wow, that was cool to see.
Yeah, that's it. And that's a good point too. It feels like we've arrived, but I feel like we've been in that spot for 10 years. Like, wow, it can't possibly get any better. It can't possibly get any more efficient. It can't possibly do more cool things. And then last year, I see a driverless tractor and a machine that's lasering weeds out of a field by itself. Like, it's so amazing how technology is moving forward so fast that you're right. Like, just the excitement to see what's next is pretty much, I can't even imagine what else they're going to do. Right.
Yeah, I know.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's so weird to think, just like 20 years ago. I mean, when I was getting out of high school in 2001, I didn't have a cell phone. And now 20 years, a little over 20 years later, here we are. And, I can talk to you. You're down in Florida. I'm up in New York, and we can have a conversation. I'm holding a tablet here talking to you. And, that would have blown my mind back then. So,
oh yeah. When we were kids,
now,
only the Jetsons had video.
Oh, exactly.
Right?
Exactly. So, what the next step's going to be, who knows?
Yeah. Yeah. It's cool. That excites me for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And now let's shift over to agriculture branding. Why do you think that tractor color means so much to multiple generations of farmers?
I think a lot of farmers have a loyalty. I just think, we run John Deere. So when you have something, well, that's what my father drove. That's what my grandfather drove. There's a lot of that loyalty. I come from an interesting family. I have an uncle that has, he does have a couple John Deeres now, but he has majority Ford tractors. So he's the blue guy. And then I have another uncle who's all Case IH. So he's the red guy. So, we all have our little, playful jabs at each other, and they're all great when they work, and they're all horrible when they break down. But, I just think farmers are extremely loyal. And I think when they do find a brand that they do like, they are going to stick by it. And, I know it'd be a lot for us, for another tractor guy to come in and sell us on another brand of tractor.
Yeah. Yeah. I hear you. I've had my F-150 my whole life. I've had 3 different ones through my adulthood, but I am not interested in any other brand. And I'm sure they're just as good, but that's
I'm a Ford truck guy myself.
That's the way
I
it is.
can vouch.
Yeah. And what factors do modern producers consider now? Like, has it changed, or do you think it is that loyalty? And also, it's so much easier to research now. So what do you think? Does it start with the loyalty and then the research?
Well, the loyalty is going to be the huge hurdle for someone like Case or New Holland, Case IH, to, I'm going to say infiltrate our farm. They have to get by that big step of loyalty, and the loyalty we've had to John Deere and everything. So that's going to be their first huge hurdle. So that's what they need to kind of see. To get somebody to switch brands and to go with another brand is going to be a huge step. And it happens. I know there's another YouTuber not too far from me who's been all John Deere, and he just switched to a New Holland combine. He demoed a New Holland tractor, but didn't end up going with it. But so it can happen. But I think it would take a lot for me to switch the brands.
Yeah, for sure. And I remember back in my old sales days, I'd drive up a farm's laneway, and I could tell so much just by looking around, right? If tractor colors matched and all the bins matched, especially if both, right?
Oh yeah.
I knew that farm valued brands and brand loyalty, and it doesn't matter what I was selling, right? I could just turn around and leave because I just knew, right? If I had a different brand.
Absolutely.
And then if there's a rainbow of equipment, mismatched bins, I knew that producer is going to look at every single angle. I have to sharpen my pencil. But what impact does tractor color or brand loyalty have on the overall brand image of a farm? To me, it seems very important. And how important is it to a farm?
I guess that if you got a bunch of them that are up and running and in good condition, I guess it's really important to them. If you got a bunch of them that's just sitting there as parts, that doesn't look too good. But you can lose just as quickly as you get that loyalty. If the brand is coming out with bad products too, you can lose that loyalty. So that could be a benefit, and it also can be a negative where, it also gives you a high standard to live up to. So if I keep saying John Deere because that's what we have. If John Deere, if we think their quality is starting to go down, it really says a lot when someone that's been a certain brand for so long switches brands. So that's what I don't think a manufacturer should just kind of rest on, well, they've had this forever, and we have, majority of people own this type of tractor or this type of brand equipment. We can kind of rest on our morals. I don't think they can do that. They have to just keep pushing forward and keep trying to put out the latest and greatest.
Yeah. And then speaking of branding, how did you become so successful on YouTube? Was it a strategy? Did it just happen? Did you go one day and say, I'm going to do this and see what happens? Like, how did that start?
I don't know what really got me. I loved just watching different tractors and different stuff, because being on the smaller end of agriculture, I like just looking up. I've always been an equipment guy. I got my tractor trailer license, and I've barely ever driven a tractor trailer before. So I love equipment, trucks. I'm like a little kid with Tonka toys. I've always been drawn to equipment. So I liked going on YouTube and watching different farming channels and whatever. And for some reason, I just decided I'm going to start doing this. And it just started out real small, like a minute video chopping corn or unloading some soybeans. And I think I got a comment one time that said, you need to talk more. So then it became more of a channel of seeing the equipment to more of a vlog style where I have the opening, and it's more my channel and the personality and everything like that. And it kind of I just kept going, and it just slowly kept growing. And I've had people ask me before, how do I do this? And it's like, you know what, you start out and you're going to be posting videos and you're going to be getting no views, and you just got to keep going and just hopefully keep pushing that snowball, and hopefully it just grows and grows and grows. And for some people it grows really fast. Some people it doesn't grow that much. And then I'm kind of I think in between there. So it's slowly but surely going up, and it's been a great ride. So I really haven't had too many. I try to use Instagram and Facebook to push people towards YouTube. Whenever I post a video, I'll put it in my story that a new video post, go check it out. So other sources of social media can help kind of push it along a little bit. And just slowly but surely going. And it's been an interesting ride these past couple of years.
Yeah,
it's neat to go back and look, because it's almost been like a time capsule. It's neat to go back and look at some of the old things. So
yeah, how many years has it taken you now?
I think it's been 6 years.
Wow.
And I look back on I was actually looking the other day. My son's 8 years old, so he would have been 2 or 3 at this point.
Wow.
And my dad was mowing a field right here behind the house, so we're out there and just hearing that little kid voice he had now, back then, and it was just pretty funny. When he was in kindergarten, we were having a parent-teacher conference, and his kindergarten teacher said he's like a little old man. And I said, well, he basically hangs around with me and my father, so he's listened to a couple old farmers talk. So.
Oh, that's amazing. That's really neat too. And who do you think is watching? It can't just all be farmers. You have to be breaking through to general consumers too, right? Do you think?
I believe so. I think there are some people that I'm kind of just going by the comments and what they tell me. There are some people that aren't farmers that are just interested, and they want to see, whether they want to see where their food comes from, or they just are interested in the equipment or whatever. So you have them. And then I have a lot of retired farmers. Like I said, we're a little on the smaller end, and maybe technologically haven't been up to today's standards on certain things. So a lot of people I'll get, that's how we used to do it back in the day. And I think it's just it's pretty neat, because there's a big channel just an hour north of me, and he's got over 100,000 subscribers, and he's a larger farm, and and he's a great guy. Me and him have talked from time to time, and it's kind of so cool between the two of us to see two different ends of the spectrum with agriculture. You get the higher end. He's got a lot of his family driving trucks and the self-propelled chopper and everything, and then you got my end where it's just me and my father out there and we're trying to make a run at it. And, it's interesting to watch, and you could watch both of us back to back. And it's like, wow, these are just two totally different ends of the spectrum here, but both entertaining.
Yeah, that's amazing. And I think too that has to have been tough for the manufacturers to watch too, right? Like I remember, 10, 15 years ago, them going, oh, it's a YouTube person. And, how do we get our hat on that guy? You know what I mean? Like,
Oh yeah.
So yeah. So being a YouTuber, how has this social media marketing played? Like, how have you seen this significant role changing the way manufacturers are approaching branding for their own products? Because I think you guys are blazing the way for this.
Yeah, and it's been pretty cool. I'll get emails all the time, so random on what they'll ask. Hey, if we send you this, will you try it out? I don't like to do too much of it because I don't want to turn my channel into an infomercial. But if it relates to agriculture and I think my fans would be benefit toward it, I definitely. I've gotten an email that said, will you want to try out this one tarp? And I'm like, I don't know what I'm going to do with this. So I just said, not this time. I've gotten things from watches, pots and pans, and then, so it's like, I don't know really how I'm going to relate this to the farm, but a lot of things, like I work with a company called Friday Parts. They'll send me some stuff to try out. And they ask me, hey, can you let people know when our, summer sale's going on? So, OEM parts, people looking for, I think there's a big market for that. So I like doing that. Super Clean is a cleaner and degreaser. I've worked with them before. They've been great to work with. And I think, when you're out in the shop working, you could always use some cleaner and degreaser. And, so, but it's more in the dealership side of things. I think the dealerships are starting to come around and notice too. I know a dealer we've dealt with before who was a little old school and he didn't quite grasp the social media stuff, and where he's retired now and there's a younger guy in there and I think he knows not only can we get him to possibly buy this equipment, but we can get a little free advertising out of this too. And I think that plays a part in it.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, that's yeah, I really like that. It's the ground roots thing, right? That it's you guys kind of blazing that trail and then everybody else going, all the corporate bodies going, well, how do we do that?
Oh
Right?
yeah.
Yeah, that's really neat.
And it's one hand washes the other towards me. If they're going to get some free advertising out of it, we can check out some equipment. It works.
Yeah. Yeah. That's really neat. And do you think that there are opportunities for collaboration or partnerships between farmers and other industries in the context of branding? Like, do you think this is something that you're going to see more of in the future? This kind of partnering or marrying of farmers and brands?
I hope so. I mean, I think it's only going to be helpful. Yeah. And it only helps reach a wider audience. I know I'm going to do a collaboration with Casanova Equipment, the John Deere dealership around here. Just hired a new social media marketing person, and she's going to come down and she wants to do a short video with me. Oh, awesome. So that kind of collaboration stuff's cool. But I hope so, because like I said, I only see it being a positive, reaching a wider audience, and I don't see why they wouldn't.
Yeah. And have you noticed any differences in consumer attitudes towards ag branding, like due to the influence of social media? Have it used to be you go down to the dealer to get all your information or the neighbors, but now you can go everywhere. So what do other producers say?
I really haven't heard too much about other producers. I mean, you're going to have people that watch the videos. Some of them are going to have a little negative outlook. They're going to take it with a grain of salt. They're going to say, well, you were given this to use for the day, so you have to say something nice about it. And as long as you're being loyal and genuine, and, if you see something you don't like, it's okay to say, well, I don't really care for this, but I do like this. I mean, you don't have to lambast it and just tear it to shreds, but I mean, you have to be positive and call the negatives when you see the negatives, or else your credibility is going to get called into question. And if your credibility is called into question, then you're not going to be doing the collabs anymore. So Yeah. I mean, there's just, like I said, I think you can reach a bigger audience with it. So if you're being genuine and telling it like it is, but not being too brutal, I think more companies could benefit for it, and I think people will take what you say seriously, and you know, it's a good way to review something. And I've done it before. I've checked out, when you're looking to buy something, I YouTube it to see it
Yeah.
working, to see if it people are on there saying this is junk, this just breaks down, or what. And like I said, I reached out to another guy to say, hey, you have this. Tell me what you think about it. What do you hate about it? What one thing drives you insane? Because it might be something that's like, well, that's tolerable for me, I don't care. Well,
Mhm.
or it might be something like, oh, that's a red flag, I'm going to stay away from. So there's so much out there as far as social media and the internet. There's so much out there. Like you said, used to just go down, and if you have a salesman, you took the salesman's word, whatever he or she said. Now it's, you can take what they say, and you have so much more outlets. You can do more research on it, and to help you make that decision.
Right. And then deal with the overload afterwards, right?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah. So how do you handle negative feedback or criticism on the platform? And what advice would you give to other farmers facing, say, similar situations, or really anybody? I take it hard when I get, terrible emails like hate mail or whatever. We deal with a lot of, on the other podcast, North American Ag Spotlight, we deal with a lot of
Mhm.
political issues. So I'm a little bit of a target for that. And for me, I kind of just go, okay, well, they don't really know me, right?
Yeah.
So what do you do? How do you deal with that?
But first off, I've been very fortunate.
Yeah.
Most of my subscribers, or most of my people who comment, have been very, very, they've been wonderful. I couldn't ask for better
That's
people to be
awesome.
watching my videos. But you do get the negative comments. You do get, and the first thing I'll do is not comment right back, because I reply to all my comments. And I
Mhm.
think that's huge.
Yeah.
It really does. It really, because you almost develop this sort of, relationship with the audience and everything, and they know they're going to have this communication, even if it's just to say thank you. Hey, thanks a lot, I appreciate it. Just, getting that comment back, I think people like that. So with negative comments, I guess it depends on how negative it is. But you're going to get the people that think they know everything, and we don't know anything. So first thing I'll try to do is I'll try to explain maybe why, instead of just saying, we have a field of corn that we tried combining, and it was just a muddy mess. So I'm not going to keep running the corn over. So we pulled the combine out. We didn't combine. We waited till the ground froze. So when I finally posted the video, someone was saying, "Oh my God, you're such a horrible manager that it's in the middle of January and you're still trying to combine. Oh my God, it's horrible." So first thing I did was I tried to explain why. And when they just keep coming back with more negative, it's like, sometimes I'm guilty of taking a jab too, and I say, well, you know what, you stick to Farm Simulator, and I'll just stick to what I'm doing. But then,
Yeah.
you know, and then sometimes I've had comments where they start off negative, you explain what you're doing, and they say, well, that makes sense. So, like I said, if they're just flat out ruthless, I ignore it.
Yeah.
I say a few choice
That's good.
words on my end that no
Yeah.
one else hears, but
Yeah.
and I try not to give, if they're going to be negative, I try not to shine light on it.
Mhm.
There's been times where I was going to address it in a video and say, I got a comment about this, but it's like, you know what, I'm not giving them the time of day, I'm not shining a light on it. I'm very laid back, I don't get political. I've just never really been a political person.
Mhm.
So I'm a Mets fan, so I'm used to I'm used to getting my heart broken and getting disappointed. So I just a lot of it. I don't want to say it doesn't phase me, because anytime you say something negative about somebody, it's gonna hit them. It's gonna hurt them somewhat. So, like you said, if you can talk to that person and say, like, show, hey, this is why we're doing it. This is this. Um, if they don't want to hear it, then no sense of talking to the brick wall.
Yeah. Yeah, that's it. And you're right about giving it a little bit of time first. Right. I've been wanting to before just jump on a comment and you don't know anything, but you're right. You need to just step back, calm down.
It's better than I'm doing it at 40 years old. Because if I was doing it at 20 years old, it'd be a different story. It would
Yeah,
have been,
really.
yeah.
Oh, that's funny. So
I don't know about wiser, but the older me is, let's take a step back and let that simmer for a little bit.
Right. That's funny. And are there any specific lessons or insights that you've gained from this whole experience, documenting your farm activities, that you'd want to share with other people who might not, might be interested in doing this and not seeing some of the cool things, that experiences that you have on the other end?
Like I said earlier, it's really been a pretty cool time capsule. I mean, I pulled up an old video the other day and it's like, hey, remember when we used that old grain cart? Oh my God, what a piece of garbage that was. I'm glad we got the one we got now. And, it's cool to document all that and look back. And actually, because we rotate our grain ground from corn to soybean yearly. So we'll be sitting there talking, and me and my dad will be talking sometimes, and he says, I can't remember what we had on that field. And I said, oh, we had corn, because I remember the YouTube video or I can just look back and see. Yeah. So it's kind of a nice documentation on what we were doing, what we had in different fields. Remember the year this broke down? Oh, it had to have been about this time because, this is when the YouTube video was up. So that's been pretty cool. And I was very fortunate. I've met some great YouTubers. Like I said, I've, the bigger channel up the road, Farming, Fixing, Fabricating, Andy Horrigan. He's been absolutely great. His cell phone goes off nonstop, so I try not to bug him. But I know if I had a serious question, I could call him, and he's absolutely wonderful. I'd get a great answer from him. Grumpy Farmers, another Andy. And they're all here in New York. He's not too far from me. I've met Chris Duffy from Duffy Ag. There's been a bunch of them I've been able to meet, and we all kind of farm. There's similarities, but we all kind of farm a little different. So it's if you don't pick someone's brain. I had someone ask me the other day, they said they're taking over their grandfather's farm. What's the best advice you can give me? And I said, pick someone's brain. There's going to be so many people around. If you think you know everything and you can't, the moment you think you're going to stop learning, it's just not going to happen. I mean, my dad even said the other day, he's in his 70s and he's still learning things. So you always have to keep learning and not be ashamed to say, I don't know the answer to this. So instead of like trying to hide the fact you don't know the answer for it, go find the answer. Someone knows it. Someone's got the information, and not everyone knows everything. So go find it. And I've been very fortunate to be able to meet some wonderful YouTubers and social media people that they're like my phone a friend if I do need them for something.
Yeah, definitely. That's so cool. And going back to Tractor Color again, so many of these big companies have acquired the standalone manufacturers, right? Mm-hmm. Like CNH or AGCO, they have these big companies owning all of these competing brands. So does some of that magic die off? And do you think going forward that brand loyalty will last into the future? Or will it be like, oh, well, CNH owns all of this and AGCO, so there's no difference anymore? So do you think we're leaving that behind, or do you think that's going to continue?
I think it all depends on the person. I think the newer generation growing up with the fact that CNH is this company. I know Kubota is making a huge push into agriculture with round balers and a lot of hay equipment. I think that's going to be the new norm for that. Like my son growing up, I think that's going to be the new norm, knowing that like this company owns these brands and this company over here owns all these brands. So the older people like myself and my father, that's, a little bit more brand loyalty. They might, when we get put out the pasture and, these younger generation come in, that would be the time that I think you might see a little bit of the brand loyalty kind of be, not questioned, but kind of, not as important, because that's just the way they've been brought up. Where, when I was growing up, you had New Holland was a brand, Case was a brand, John Deere was a brand. And like you said, a lot of these kind of brands have been kind of swallowed up. I mean, there's a cool show in Western New York. It's called the Farming, hopefully it's okay to say, the Farming Some Bitch Show. And it's an acronym for Some Unique Machines Brought In to Commemorate History.
Oh, wow. I've never even heard of that. That's so cool.
He's on Instagram. Tom does a great job. It's a tractor show to raise money for Alzheimer's awareness. And I try to get out there. I've been out there the past couple of years. They have so many cool brands out there and that people bring. There's a really cool Minneapolis Moline that's there. There's a white. There's I talked to a guy that had an Oliver, and actually I filmed him actually up in Cortland, New York for an antique plow day. But I got to talk to him a little bit about his Oliver, and it was pretty cool. He said that he wanted a John Deere 4320 and saw this Oliver and just went with that. And I said, you don't want to be like everybody else going with the 4320, but yeah, that just shows. And it is cool. Yeah, I'll do the walk of John Deere's and look at that, but it is cool to walk around and look at the other brands that are there. So they have a lot of different brands of stuff up there.
Oh, that's cool. And yeah, when you said about the, younger kids, being more accepting of the orange color of Kubota, it is really interesting. Every farm show I go to, I give away backpacks and bags and stuff, all in what color is your tractor, and they pick whatever color they want. Well, I've learned I've got to have like 5 times more than any other of green and then red and then blue, but it's a lot of young people that pick orange. So you're right.
Yeah.
Totally right about that. Yeah.
We do have a Kubota. We have a Kubota side by side on the farm and a Kubota lawnmower. That's about it. But I don't know. To me, it's, I still see them as like a lawnmower almost. So it's
right.
like, it's going to take a little more to get, me to go away from my green tractors, but
yeah, that's it. Or a horse farm. It's got to be a horse farm.
Oh yeah.
Can see that. Yeah. So from your perspective, what do you think manufacturers could do more of to retain the customer's brand loyalty going forward? So, what could they be doing a little bit better to really solidify that brand into the next generation?
That's a good question.
More hats?
Yeah. That is a really good question. If we had the answers to that, we could sell that to these manufacturers.
Yeah, we could. I know.
We could be on the board making all sorts of money. I do think their presence at these farm shows, I think, are important. We had one. Well, I met you at the New York State Farm Show, and that was a wonderful show and that's in the winter time. There was a good one up in Seneca Falls called Empire Farm Days, and it now got moved to Pompey, New York. It's still a good show, although in the new location, I like to go see the field demos. I mean, it's nice seeing the piece of equipment sitting there all armoralled and everything and all shined up and waxed up, but it's nice to see them go out in the field and actually work. And it seems like, I don't know, the one up in Pompey now, it seems like there aren't as many pieces of equipment up there. And for whatever reason, I don't know if manufacturers just don't want to send stuff up there, but it's almost like dealerships now where you can see the same piece of equipment every stop you make almost. I mean, and we have dealerships up here that carry, I can think off the top of my head, 3 that carry Kuhn. So I could go to make 3 different stops and see the same thing. That's what I like about the New York State Farm Show is you go to like the Kuhn booth, or you go to the John Deere booth, and now you go to the Kloss booth, and some are bigger than others, but at least they're kind of by brand. And just having a presence at these shows, getting their products out there for people to see is going to be something that I think is pretty important.
Yeah, I agree. And I do hear a lot of manufacturers weighing now the cost of showing up at shows with all your reps and it is a big decision now, especially since COVID, where everybody went online. So is it necessary to show up? I think 100%. Like, I'm trying to do as much of my show schedule as I used to. It's a bit difficult from Florida because it's like 7 hours just to leave the state. I have to fly everywhere now, but where back when I lived in Ontario, everything was 5 hours away. It was easy to drive everywhere. But I think that they really have to remember the human touch, right? And I think that's what we get at farm shows is that, we probably never would have talked if we didn't meet at the New York Farm Show, right? That's my favorite show too. But where would we ever, be able to communicate 2 ways other than at the farm show, right?
Yes.
So I think, there's hundreds of people in my life like that probably thousands that I've met through farm shows that, you miss going back to that show for that group of people.
Mhm.
And I think you're right that is really important, that they should still honor the farm show, right?
You never know. Like I said, I keep bringing up round balers. You never know when someone like me is going to go to the farm show looking for one. And if you don't bring one, or at least if I go there, and I'm not saying you have to have every piece of equipment on your line there, but at least have somebody that knows to talk about something like that. I mean, they know what's selling in what area, and so they know what to bring. But if I'm there looking and there's nobody, I keep bringing Kuhn up. If I go to Kuhn and say, hey, I've heard good things, I'm interested in the Kuhn round bale, there's no one there to talk to, and they didn't feel like sending their person. And well, I'm going to go over here and look at Kloss now, and that's a nice round baler. I guess I'll go with that one because, they had somebody there, they had a representative there. And I do think that's important to, like you said, you can watch a video, you can see it work, but to open up the shield and see how heavy duty the chains are. Well, this kind of looks good, but this one kind of looks kind of a little chintzy. I don't know. I think this is going to be a problem. So I think watching the YouTube videos and stuff like that is a good first start. It's a good way to do your research and say, okay, well, this guy's had a problem with this. Now let's go check it out and let's see what he's talking about. So that's where I think the presence is really important.
I couldn't agree with you more. It's all just, all of these different areas of marketing, right? Where you've got to show up in all of them these days.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. And at the base of it is the human element, right? And the corporate just has to kind of tag along and figure it out as they go. Yeah. Yeah. That's awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining me today. This was a great conversation, and it was really cool to get your perspective. And I'm hoping a lot of manufacturers will listen in and really listen to what you're saying as well. And and again, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for having me. It was a pleasure.
Yeah. And to all who are watching or listening, if you want to learn more, the links are provided in the show notes. Check out and subscribe to MikeP7810 on YouTube. And don't forget to subscribe to North American Ag at NorthAmericanAg.com on YouTube, Rumble, Telegram channels. And What Color is Your Tractor podcast is available on Spotify, Google, Apple, Amazon, or wherever you listen to podcasts. And have a great day.